The Short Game is listener-supported on Patreon. If you'd like to support the show and join us on our Discord, head to theshortgame.net or patreon.com/theshortgame. Welcome back to The Short Game, a show about short video games, games that respect your time. I am... not co-host. I'm the host today.
Ooh.
Shane Kelly. And I'm joined here by one of my fabulous co-hosts,
Laura Nash.
And today we're going to be talking about a video game that falls into a genre that I don't think we've covered ever before on the Short Game. We're going to be looking at Nintendo's exercise game that has just come out this year, Ring Fit Adventure.
Yeah.
Ring Fit Adventure is an exercise RPG that has been brought out for the Nintendo Switch. It's kind of in the same tradition as Nintendo's history of bringing out these exercise games that I guess started with the Wii. But this is one that really hit the spot for me in a way that none of those games really had. None of those games previously appealed to me, but this one really did. So I'm excited. Laura and I have both had a chance to check this game out, and it has completely transformed our bodies into that of Greek statuesque gods. Isn't that right, Laura?
Absolutely. It's only been a couple weeks, but we're magnificent now, basically. But so Shane was talking about this a couple weeks ago and what's making him happy. And it actually sounded like a fun game. I walked into the Nintendo store and bought it, and they asked me repeatedly where I was from. And I was like, I work down the street. You're on my way home. They were flabbergasted. But I think this game does fit really well into the Short Game. Not only have we had a really fun Patreon conversation where we're kind of talking about how weird this game is with our friends on the Discord, but it's also kind of like, an FTL or Slay the Spire where you kind of have these rounds. It's not designed for you to like play this game for hours and hours, although some people are somehow speedrunning it, which seems horrible.
That's
they're literally passing
kind of
out.
Hilarious. Kind of defeats the purpose, but
totally
people will speedrun anything, and I'm always impressed.
Yeah, but it's that really good like short period thing. And I will say this is probably the most expensive game we've ever covered. I think it's like $80 or $90. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think it's like $80. I think I paid $80.
But like health is expensive. I had to buy a new sports bra this year that cost $60. So like I guess just anything with the word health in front of it costs money. And there are 2 peripherals. So it is a little bit more than we might cover. But I think I've heard a lot of people cover this game who are already fit. And I wanted to talk about it because I am not.
Yeah, I'm not terribly fit. I wouldn't say I'm no slob, but I'm definitely no what's the name of the Super Chad dragon?
I'm no Drago. And I'm not Abdonis.
Yes.
Or any of these other fantastic villains you're going to beat in this game.
Yeah, I think overall in considering like why we would kind of stretch out of our usual genres into something like this, what are we after on this game? We're looking for games that respect your time, games that fit into your life. I think it's interesting to take a look at an exercise game from that lens. It's the thing that you want out of an exercise game is that it's going to make something that you're either already trying to do more fun or more fulfilling, or it's going to just sort of help you along your path of like, getting maybe a little more fit or achieving some kind of New Year's fitness goal, right? And so I think that is a place that a lot of people have room in their life. I certainly do. And so Ring Fit for me has kind of helped fill that little niche. And I think I definitely think there's a big case to say that this is a game that respects your time and can fit into your life in that way.
Yeah, and honestly, for me, paying out that upfront cost, gym memberships in New York are extraordinarily expensive. I couldn't find one for under $120 a month in walking distance. So I think that it's been really fun to play, and it's been very easy to, like, it's in my house already. There's even a multiplayer, like a multitask mode where you can just kind of squeeze this ring while you walk around the house.
That's pretty neat.
But
Yeah.
I tried a couple other health apps in the past. Did you ever try Zombies Run, Shane?
Yeah, I did. That's a fun one. I think there was a lot of early fitness style apps that came out as smartphones were kind of new, and people had this idea that, well, we've got these GPS, motion sensing enabled devices in our pockets. These can be the kind of portal for kind of a new kind of exercise game, and I definitely checked some of those out. The problem with something like Zombies Run for me is that I live in Houston, Texas.
Mm-hmm. It's like a million degrees.
Yeah, the outdoor temperature in Houston is, for just probably a good half of the year, it's in the high 90s Fahrenheit. we're not a great place for outdoor cardio.
Yeah, and there's no sidewalks in that city either.
Yeah, there's not a lot of sidewalks.
You're gonna get hit by a car.
Yeah.
So I was playing Zombies Run pretty dedicatedly, and I mostly in a gym, and I went home for Christmas and I ran by the bayou, and 3 people called my mother because they thought I had been abandoned on the side of the road because they saw me outside running. They were like, something must have happened to Laura. She's outside of a car. So that's how little people run outside in Houston.
Yeah, it's not that it's impossible or that people don't do it. I actually do kind of my main source of exercise in Houston is riding my bike, which I really enjoy. And you get a little bit more respect on the roads in Houston when you're riding a bike than when you're walking. But even so, not very much. It is truly taking one's life into one's hands to be on a bike in Houston.
I liked Zombies Run a lot, but I also, just running isn't that interesting to me. I like mixing it up. This felt like a much more diverse workout. And also something is like Zombies Run is all about the story. It's like a podcast mixed in with your music. This one is much more like all you're doing is working out when you're playing it. So I found myself a lot more engaged. I didn't kind of dip in and out like I did in Zombies Run. If you're a runner, Zombies Run is fantastic. But if you actively hate running, this might be a lot more fun for you.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what this game is exactly.
Mm-hmm.
What this game is in the box, you have a game cartridge. This game is only sold in a box. You can't download it from the Wii store. And in that box is a leg strap that you put one of the Joy-Cons into, a ring that's like a Pilates ring that you clip the other Joy-Con to, and that ring is the real peripheral here. The leg strap is not really a digital device. It's just a holder for the Joy-Con that straps it to your thigh. The ring has a couple of padded grips, and it has like a Pilates ring. It's kind of a tension ring where you kind of can squeeze it. It has all the sensors of the Joy-Con, of course, and also it senses its own kind of squash and stretch motions. It has a kind of a sensor in there. The ring is, it's about the size of small pizza.
I'd say it's about a 15-inch circumference. Just looking at my 15-inch mob top, it's about the same size.
Yeah. The game has several modes, but the main mode is a RPG mode in which there's a very lengthy and kind of, I wouldn't say in-depth, but definitely expansive story-based exercise mode, right? And you're going kind of from world to world, doing these workouts that are all about these RPG-style battles. So it starts you off, I guess we should say, by doing kind of a calibration where it asks you some questions about your fitness, and it gets you to, being a couple of questions, really, nothing too detailed. Just like, do you want to go hard or easy here? Mm-hmm. The nice thing is it continues to refine that every time you work out with it. It's asking you like, how was that? Do you want to go a little harder next time?
Yeah. And they even check to make sure, like, do you want me to stop asking? Is this annoying? Like, for me, it was great because I got sick and I was able to kind of tone it down and then go back up. So, like, I'm not going to turn that off. But I could see if you were, like, already on level 30, you'd be like, no, I work out all the time. I want the challenge. Don't go easy on me.
Yeah. Absolutely. And in terms of like the actual exercise series of it, there's multiple difficulty levels, and I think the main difference in the difficulty levels is when you're doing these different exercises, there are moves you'll do that basically have you do a set of a particular exercise, and that will have you do a certain number of reps, essentially. Like a particular attack might be something like holding the ring above your head and squeezing it.
Mm-hmm.
And on the harder modes, you're basically doing that more times as part of that attack.
Yeah. So this to me is much more like a hangout RPG, I suppose. Like it's not the heaviest of lore, but it's super goofy and it's really fun. It starts you off at the beginning with this like big cutscene where they introduce you to Ring, the only character that talks, has a very chipper voice. Not I didn't find Ring annoying, but he's pretty chipper. And it's like the ring you're holding in your hands is this magic shiny object, and he has this beef with like a bad gym bro dragon named Drago, who's just like this giant beefcake dragon who ignores gym etiquette, and that's why he's bad. Also, he stole powers, but like mostly he's just a jerk. I kind of liked that the whole thing is basically like this guy is just a jerk and you want to beat him up by doing exercise. What is your take on this weird little story, Shane?
So the story is pretty minimal. It's very character based though, which I think is actually a nice way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
If if they had gone really deep into story in this game, it would be very weird when I got sick and took a week off of working out and came back
Would be
to
like,
it
oh
and was
no,
like, huh,
he's
who are these
dead now.
people? What's going on? Why am I
Although they
storming the
do
castle?
recap every time you log in,
Yeah.
they're like the story you just got to. You saved the
Yeah.
people who run the smoothie shop.
But yeah, what I do really like is the characters and the character design. Like that's really what kind of pulls you in here and keeps you going is if this gigantic black dragon with the rippling abs challenges you, sure, that might just be enough to motivate you to push on through to the end of a workout. The actual story as it is and the gameplay is all very much a kind of a slow roll, and I actually think that the design of how they roll this stuff out is really smart and clever.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's a kind of a routine that they're trying to get you into with this game, which is maybe working out every day or finding that rhythm of exercising, right? Building the habit of exercising. And the way that they do that is not to give you 50 things to learn gameplay wise in your first exercise. It's that every time you're coming back and doing the Ring Fit workouts, it's giving you some new toy to play with, whether that is introducing a new character in a cute cutscene or a new enemy or the very slow and deliberate way that they give you new moves for your workout and new effects that those moves can have on the enemies, or different ways of leveling up your character or items. These are all kind of RPG staples that are in there. But every time you come back, if you're like me, you're probably doing maybe 30 minutes at a time in this. And, maybe if I hit a really long session, 45 to maybe an hour, that's kind of pushing it, at least for me. You're probably seeing one or two new things. And as much as I've done this, which is quite a bit now, I've had this game since December and I'm playing it, 2 or 3 days a week, probably for about 30 minutes. But I do keep coming back, and every time I do that, I see something new. Now they're introducing the smoothies, and now I'm collecting ingredients to make smoothies, or now there's a level up tree, whereas before it was just giving you these items and things like that. So it does kind of slowly get more and more complex, and they also have level design. But by the way, I should say the design of the levels here. Every time you are arriving in a new place, there is a world, which is 3 or 4 or 5 different locations. And each of those locations might be a workout or a mini game or battle with Drago or what have you. And Um, the typical workout here is that you are holding the ring con and you're jogging in place. And
Oh,
the
you
jogging
can,
in
if you're in an apartment, you can set this to be squats if you're worried about annoying people underneath you. Just
Oh, I didn't
FYI.
know that. That's really good. That's really smart. Yeah, there's a lot of smart adjustment that you can make. Yeah, so I do the jogging in place because I have no one underneath me, and it's tracking your movement from the Joy-Con on your leg, and so you have to be running in order for your character to move. And if you're running with a certain level of vim and vigor, really high stepping, then your character's hair goes fiery, and you're really getting into it.
It looks
And they
so
keep
cool if you're playing as a woman. Like that ponytail just catches a flame and it just
yeah, it's
looks
pretty cool.
badass.
Yeah. The levels have a lot kind of to keep you somewhat engaged while you're in those kind of in between jogging moments, because I think this game primarily is about cardio, and so there is a lot of that jogging just to keep you going between these different sets, right? So and the sets are the enemies that you get to. But to keep you engaged, the ring con has lots of little interactions that it does, and they slowly kind of add more of these. So it's things like if you squeeze the ring con, it sends a puff of air in the direction that you're pointing the ring con. So you might kind of point it around to the side and squeeze it and use a blast of air to like smash a crate and get some coins. Or you can pull the ring con to turn it into a vacuum to like pull coins or other items to you. Or even my favorite is that you point the ring con down and squeeze it, and it blasts you up into the air, which lets you kind of jump over obstacles or things like that.
Or fly.
Yeah, a little flying action. They keep it interesting.
Yeah, and you're running through these actually really nice looking environments. Like you can see your avatar on the screen running, which helps also if you something I always have problems with these games is the calibration. So you can just kind of point down to recalibrate. If you see like you're wandering to the left, you always can see yourself, which is nice. And it's a pretty like they have nice, pretty environments. You're like going across, ravines and rivers and going through mountains, and it kind of reminds me of like the early gym gamification where you could just like you see a beach running and you're like running on the beach, but it's just a video of a beach. It's kind of like that, but there's actual stuff you can interact with in the environment, which I think
the
really helps.
gameplay of that part really reminds me of like a Rails-based shooter.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so you're just kind of, but you're the rail you're on. You have some ability to interact with it, and you can. And honestly, it's tiring you the f out. And then when you get to certain points, you'll see enemies that are in your path, and sometimes you'll actually be able to jump over them with the jumps or things like that. But other times, you can't avoid the enemies, and now you are in turn-based combat, which is an extremely RPG thing. And you alternate with the enemies and you, and when it's your turn to attack, you're picking one of these different exercises that you're going to do. And those exercises are classified by color, corresponding to the general part of the body that they're geared towards. So, like, there's shoulder exercises that I think are like blue, and there's cardio exercises that I think are red, and things like that. And
yeah, like sometimes you might be like, oh, yellow is both like twisting side to side and doing knee to the. You're like, oh nope, that's abs. Like it's pretty easy to figure out what you're working with each color, which I really like.
As you get a little farther in the game, I think I was like a week in, maybe. I'd played it a few times when they added more to that kind of exercise mechanic where certain exercises based on color are more effective against certain enemies that kind of match that color. So there's, and you also start to get exercises that correspond to like a multi-attack versus a single target attack, things like that. So they start playing with a lot of the same kind of things you would expect from a turn-based RPG combat system.
It's surprisingly incentivizing because sometimes I would be pretty tired and I would realize like, no, I need to rally and do Warrior Pose 1 because it is 60 points of damage, or I need to, do this particular arm exercise, even though my arms are tired, because it is a multi-target. So unlike an RPG where you are just like, this always deals most damage, go. They kind of are trying to play on your strengths and weaknesses, I think, to, I wasn't sure playing, and I think this is to the game's, this is a plus for the game. I wasn't sure playing if the level design of which enemies I had was based purely on the level, or if they were changing up the enemies' colors based on what I had been avoiding. So either they did a really good job of being like, this level is legs, this level is arms, this level is yoga, or they were changing out the colors because I hadn't done enough sit-ups in a while. So I couldn't tell if it was dynamic or good level design, which I think is a pretty good, you're not just going to get one type of exercise. That said, I did read something where someone was like, I'm super fit except for I can't plank. And he was like, so he had the difficulty level set at like, I think 30 is the highest, and he had it like 25. So he's doing all these arm reps and he's super buff. And then he was asked to plank, and it was like, do 25 planks. And he almost like fell on the ground. So the limitation is like, if you're really good at one exercise and not another, there's no way to like say I'm a 30 on legs and a 10 on arms. You're just going to have to be kind of one level of fitness across the board.
Yeah, you do get to kind of switch out the exercises that you want to include in your, set of attacks that you're going to be doing. And you are kind of incentivized to have, by the different color matching thing, you're incentivized to have exercises of every kind, but there's nothing that would stop you from saying like, okay, I'm just going to turn on our arms exercises and that's it.
Yeah. And there are sets outside the game too that you can target certain areas. We can talk about that later, but
yeah, there is a whole separate mode that is not the RPG related that are mini games, and there's a whole other separate mode that's like just pure workouts. The game is really effective at just delivering you a workout in a play session. Like if you just follow what it's going to have you do, you're going to have a pretty fun and varied workout. And I also found the game pretty good at, even though it doesn't have like a full picture of what you're doing, because it's really sensors in the ring and one on one of your legs, it has a pretty good set of kind of use of the sensors to tell you if you're doing the form right. And it also gives very good on-screen visuals, like to help you adjust your form. There's even like, I thought, really good tips.
Oh yeah.
You want to, this move, you're going to feel it in your arms, not your stomach, things like that. Or here's how you want to actually approach this. And that's usually the ring voice just chiming in.
Yeah. I found that kind stuff of awkward super... there. Oh, go ahead.
The voice acting. Okay. So the ring itself, the ring con that you are holding, or your character on screen is holding, is a character. And so there's some very silly voice lines that it has that say things like, press me hard into your stomach.
Yeah, it's pretty weird. Although he does at the end of a boss battle usually be like, your sweat is so shiny and beautiful.
Yeah, I love that.
Also, like there's this, whenever you're doing these exercises, there's this like sketch outline of a guy who they named Tip, and Tip has perfect form, and Tip is doing the exercises for you on the side and modeling what you're supposed to look like. And I became very fond of Tip. Tip is better than I am at exercising, but he'll like wave at you from time to time, and he'll sometimes give you like a thumbs up, and it's just this faceless dude. But I really liked Tip. I think Tip is great. I do think that one of the things about exercising in this that I really like is that you can, as I said, calibrate what level of, how hard you want to go. But also once you like kill a dude, you're done with that exercise. So sometimes I will pick like a very hard exercise to do right at the end because it does a ton of damage and I won't have to do all like 18 reps. I'll be like, if I do like 3 more knee to chest rotations, this guy will pop in 3. So like it's worth the extra effort to do the harder things right at the end. I don't really, it's not like, Pokemon was gonna, force me to do lunges.
No, but they do. I mean, people did actually, there were people that treated Pokemon Go as a fitness game, you know? And,
Yeah. The
so
but
I think there's a big area for that in a lot of people's lives. I think is just
yeah.
uh, one more example of like people will turn a game that's not really even a fitness game into a fitness game. So
We're pretty desperate for fitness games. And I call this kind of
I think
a
what we're
hangout
desperate
game.
for is entertainment while we exercise.
Oh yeah, we
really
just
hate it.
yeah, no, this is a very good distraction from the fact that I'm actually sweating. And also I can do it alone and I hate working out with people. So yes, I know the answer is to go take a class, but then I have to sweat with strangers and that's just not appealing in any way, shape, or form. That said, I think earlier I called this like what I think makes this fun is it's kind of a hangout game where you rescue a person and then that person works the general store and you've saved them and now you can go visit these people. You talked about how much stuff you unlock. It's not just new exercises, new powers, this kind of smoothiest potion thing, but you're also meeting new characters as you go. It's pretty charming and that like distraction thing. Oddly, no one else has a voiceover actor except Ring and this kind of like woman who tells you how to do your heart rate monitor and stretch. It's like Ring is the voice of the game, and then this nameless woman is just like the voice of like stretching before and after you work out, and everybody else just is kind of like pun machines who kind of talk in dialogue trees at you.
Yeah. The overall like all the voice acting it's charming enough. It's good to keep you going there, and I think if they went too complex with it, it would be weird in a different way.
It would also take so long, and you would be like, "Why is this dialogue sequence taking me 20 minutes? Like I've completely lost my cardio."
Yeah, this is you're gonna get in and out in this game. The initial cutscene is kind of weirdly long.
And they tell you, they're like, put down the ring con, like you're gonna be here for a while.
Yeah. So in terms of the actual exercise, like the quality of the workout that this is giving you, I certainly would never actually probably sign up for a Pilates class, as you're saying. This is for the most part Pilates. You're dealing with basically a Pilates ring. You're doing mostly kind of Pilates style floor exercises. Across the board, what you're really getting from this game, and if I have one kind of critique of the exercise portion of the game, it's that cardio, which this is 99% like 75% cardio, is the kind of exercise that is the easiest to do. There's so many ways you can do cardio exercise. You could go ride a bike. You could go for a jog. You can jog in place without holding a Nintendo circle in your hands. So, but the overall experience that you get here is a really high quality one, and it is motivating. And it does add a lot of variety with the kind of interest of the different exercises. So I do find myself a little worn out at the end of these sessions. Like it definitely does. Over time, I am seeing like improvement in certain things, especially in my arms with this game, because the actual resistance of the ring and the different exercises that they have you do with it. A lot of them are things like hold the ring horizontally in front of you and squeeze in with your shoulders, and you're working your kind of shoulders and your biceps in there. And I'm certainly have never been accused of having powerful biceps. So yeah, so I mean those aspects of it are great. I actually wish I could tune it more towards those kinds of exercises and away from the kind of jog in place cardio. But you know what? I do need that stuff too. The interesting thing about this, I don't think we've mentioned about the ring con, is in when it comes to the cardio, like a lot of cardio exercise kind of plans, you're going to be measuring your heart rate, and the ring con can actually measure your heart rate. The strange thing on the Joy-Con that I'll often forget is even there is that the right Joy-Con, I think it is, the right Joy-Con has a infrared camera on it, a small black square that I only know of two things that use it. One is this, and the other is the Nintendo Labo toy thing.
Oh, okay.
where it's used for they use these like reflective tape strips as part of how those little contraptions work. But here it is used in a way that kind of surprised me that it's possible, but must, I guess, have been in the plans all along, which is you can put your thumb on this thing and it will read your heart rate. And kind of worth mentioning here is around the same time I got this, I also got another fitness gadget, which is an Apple Watch. And that also is reading my heart rate. And so I'm using, interestingly enough, the Apple Watch has in its little catalog of different workouts you might be doing, it has a fitness gaming setting. So usually when I'm playing this game, I'm also running the fitness gaming workout on my Apple Watch so that it credits it towards the rings on the Apple Watch, which, then I can further gamify my gamification of my fitness. Mm-hmm. And so the interesting thing is you're comparing the heart rate sensor on this to the heart rate sensor on the Apple Watch. It is always within about 1 or 2 beats per minute. Which is the readout.
You told me that it was insane. Like I kind of expected this to be pretty off. That is really accurate.
Yeah, and in fact, I saw in some of the reviews of this game, some people say, one reviewer was like, "Yeah, this definitely is not an accurate. This definitely is not an accurate heart rate sensor because sometimes I felt like I'd gone really hard and my heart rate was low, and other times I felt like I hadn't worked out that much and my heart rate was high." I totally disagree. I think that person needs to actually check it against like literally any other kind of heart rate sensor because this thing is surprisingly accurate.
And honestly, like to me, like going really hard in the monster battles doesn't necessarily mean that you are going like hard on the jogging. So like to me, like I could work really, really hard during those parts and my heart rate might be more like its stamina level rather than high exercise. It seemed pretty accurate to me, but I also know that like over time, like if you do 2 or 3 levels in a row, like, yeah, it might rise over time or maybe you take it easy. Like it seemed pretty consistent with the way I felt at the end.
Yeah. And if I have one critique of it, it's just that the way it's implemented, like because it's part of the Joy-Con and not something that's like your hand is constantly on while you hold the ring. Mm-hmm. It's really only going to read your heart rate at the conclusion of the workout. And at that point, you've probably gotten through all the tough parts. So you don't have an understanding of like what were the highs and lows in your workout or anything like that. But you can use that information somewhat. And I think they graph it for you and things like that a little bit. So there's some level of data tracking, but this is not a game that's really all about tracking your fitness data.
Yeah, you can get numbers and things at the end of like how many of each exercise you've done. There's plenty of stats if you want to go into it. For me, like I found it really helpful to do the stretching they suggested, do a couple story levels, do the cool down stretching, which I can't figure out how to trigger outside of story mode. And then I would just kind of do a bunch of sets depending on what I wanted to work out that day in the set group. So that's exactly what I did at the gym anyway. I would just I'd run for at least 30 minutes and then I would do a circuit. So that's kind of how I matched it. It's funny to me that you can't they treat them like separate modes. Like if you want to do extra sets, you get XP for the game, but it's kind of treated like, oh, you did extra homework. Not like I can't like stop in the middle of, right before a boss battle and do a posture set and then go back in. It's not built that way. It's kind of like story mode, get in and out of it, and then do whatever you want extra. Can we talk a little bit about the Nintendo-ness of it all? Like, they tell me to drink water so much.
Yeah. You remember how Nintendo would, like, pop up messages on the Wii and say, like, you sure have been playing for a while. Wouldn't you like to go outside? It kind of felt like that. It does remind you...
Except they were like, are you sure you want to keep exercising?
Like... Yeah. It really does. And I mean, I understand the value of stretching before exercising, but it definitely encourages you to do that every single time. Like you said, it tells you to drink lots and lots of water.
Cold water. They tell you to drink cold water.
Yes. The funniest message to me was they give you these like informational messages kind of usually at the start of your workout or towards the end. My favorite one was one that said, question, I'm worried I will become too muscular.
God forbid.
And the answer is, don't worry. It won't happen accidentally.
Yeah, basically they were like, you have to work out extremely hard to get super buff, is basically what they said.
Well, I mean, the thing is, I guess there really are people that have that concern. They that's one of the excuses they might make for not wanting to exercise. So
oh yeah,
I think they probably have reasons for all of these things. But to me, I am certainly not worried about being too muscular.
No, and I do appreciate you telling that right up front. Like, don't worry, you won't get too muscular. Just keep trying it. Also, a thing that you can set in this game that I find very funny is like notifications to remind you to work out, but they seem to only work on the Switch, which seems horrible. Like, can you imagine just being in your house and suddenly your Switch goes off? Like,
yeah, no, I mean, I have my watch bugging me to work out now, so I don't need two things bugging me to work out.
If you want it, it's there, but they don't force it on you.
Yeah, no, I think there's definitely probably people who want that, like have it chime at you to remind you, hey, you haven't worked out today. And that kind of does go hand in hand with that feature you were talking about. You briefly mentioned the multitasking mode. You can take the Joy-Con and move with it or squeeze it while doing other things. You put the Switch into multitasking mode. The Switch shuts off. You can switch on your TV or whatever and do some of the exercises just with the Switch and just with the ring, and it will track that. Weirdly, it has a limit of 500 squeezes, but I don't think you'll hit 500 squeezes in your average like TV show or whatever. But that does kind of give you more ways to use this. And you also mentioned the sets. I really haven't engaged with that part of it at all. Can you tell me a little bit about the sets?
Oh, yeah. So one of my favorite things about this is I can tell they've tried to make it for fitness people and not fitness people. So you can go in to custom modes. You can kind of make yourself a workout, or you can do games, which are like the, shoot crates by pulling on or by pressing on the thing, or like, there's one called like it's not called Thigh Rider, I think, where you sit in a chair and you put it between your legs and you squeeze the Pilates ring to like float in the air on a hover bike. Don't play that game if you're wearing lady workout pants that are really slick and shiny, because the ring will shoot across the room and they will be like, oh, you died. So you can't die in this game, but you can get a lot of negative points if you literally throw the ring con across the room. But specifically, back to what you asked me, sets are little groups of workout challenges that I think are made for people who don't necessarily know muscle groups. Like, you aren't going to pick like, I want the gluteus maximus. You'll pick something called posture set or waist or abs or upper arms. And they string together between 5 and 10 exercises that you'll eventually unlock in the main game, I think. But they're all targeted at that muscle group. So for example, the posture one had a lot of like side to side things on waist. It had a lot of back issues. Upper arms had things like putting the ring behind your head and stretching, like a lot more advanced tools. And there's a little robot there that each time you do it is going to give you a score between 0 and 100. So you can actually use this to fix your form too if you don't know how you're doing, like if you're doing these right. I thought they were really fun. The robot is pretty encouraging. He'll be just like the ring and yell, but the ring isn't part of it. It's just like you trying to do these sets. Tip is there. It's just like a battle, but you don't get a score. And at the end, they'll tell you like, oh, for upper arms today, you got a 96, meaning you did like 96% of the strength you're supposed to. Something else in the quick play is apparently you can set the strength of the ring to low, medium, or high. And I'm not sure if that means like if that's actually taking any tensile strength changes or if it's just like you have to push really hard for it to count. I really liked the sets because if you went really hard on arms the day before and you're sore, you can do a bunch of leg stuff. Like I like doing like leg day, arm day. This lets me do that. Also, the posture sets are really do help because it's all like upper chest and back stretches while you're working out. Stuff that I don't know how long it's going to take for me to unlock in the main game. You can probably also do like a yoga set where you can grab a bunch of the slow yoga exercises. I don't know. I thought it was a really nice way to do more variety of fitness tasks because you might not unlock new things in battles that quickly. Yeah, they're fun. They're also really short. Like for example, I think I had been playing for a while. I was kind of on that like 25-minute mark. And then in the next battle was a Drago boss battle, which I knew could be like 10 minutes. And I was not up for that. So I quit but I didn't want to stop before 30 minutes. So I did 3 or 4 set rounds. It felt better.
So speaking of that time, there's like one thing I've noticed that's weird about the game. And I don't know why this is, but it gives you like an estimated time for all the workouts. Nothing near
what the actual time is for me.
Yeah, they always take way longer for me.
They're like, estimated time, 3 minutes. And I'm like, okay, that'll be 10.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if the time is the time you run, and it doesn't include battle time.
Doesn't include the fights, maybe?
Maybe it doesn't include the fights.
That could be it. But it does keep like an on-screen timer for you that tells you like how long your overall exercise session is. And, if you play, multiple levels back to back, it'll keep ticking that up.
Yeah. And it only counts when you're active. So
yeah,
it might be 30 minutes of real time, but it doesn't count stretching or menus or water breaks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will say a quick shout out to the multitask mode, which you brought up, is it's really when you don't actually want to like break a sweat, but you do kind of want to work out. I did do some like laying in bed, watching Star Trek and like squeezing above my head in bed while watching Star Trek. And I probably looked stupid, but it gave me a bonus when I logged back in. It was like, do you want to give this bonus to Shane or give it to yourself? And I was like, all for me.
Yeah.
No points for Shane.
Oh, that's all right. You keep those points.
Yeah.
I have found that the best thing I can say about this game is that it is consistently fun to use. And it's also, as I've done it, I have felt noticeably better at several of the workouts, like, the arms and the flexibility exercises and the holding the chair pose is a lot easier for me now than when I started the game. So I continue to get through it. I know that there's actually quite a long story mode to it, and that even after that, you can kind of do an endless mode. I hope Nintendo keeps putting out games like this so that if I ever get truly tired of this one, they'll have some other new twist on the exercise game genre for me to kind of dip into. For me, this is the most successful Exer game that I have played. And, I guess I recommend it to the audience of the short game. If you are looking to get this kind of experience in your life, if you want to have a little bit. I should also mention how much my son likes this game. He cannot play it. He is 2 years old. But when he sees dad jogging in place in front of the TV or like flailing his arms in front of the television, fighting a dragon, he loves it, and he will come and watch me. He's always picking up the ring and playing with it. He's also usually trying to make the game extra hard for me by grabbing and holding onto my ankles, which adds an extra level of difficulty.
Yes, where are the extra XP points for that? I don't know. For me, the main endorsement is like, one, that it's been fun to talk about it with other people in the Discord, and two, like the fact that I've, it's been like, including when I went down for the bad cold, it's like, oh, I'm on day 8 or 9 of this game, which normally would not be the case. Like, it's not like, oh, I have to go to the gym and work out. It's right there. I'm much more, we'll see how it keeps going, but like, I think we're already in like the time in January where the gym is starting to get deserted again. Honestly, it's winter. I don't like going outside in the snow. I am happy to work out in my living room. And I think this is a much more fun way to do it than I expected. I thought it would kind of feel like a mean teacher yelling at me. And it's better than YouTube videos, what I was doing before, because those don't actually critique your form. So for me, it's been working really well, and I like it. it is a big barrier to try. Like, I don't know where you could actually try this out before you buy it. But
yeah, I guess there's places you could like buy it, and if it doesn't work for you, return it. But it is, the trialability is not great because it is a hardware item as much as it is a piece of software.
yeah, but I will say that I didn't have hardware issues at all with this, except again, don't play it in shiny pants or the the band will just fly across the room.
Mm. Oh, I never mentioned also the fact that the Switch is something you can set on like a table in like tabletop mode is actually really a plus for this, because I've had times where like my wife was in the living room watching a show and I still wanted to play this. I went into the bedroom, I set it up on my dresser, and it was actually one of the better places to play. You can, some of the text is a little harder to read, but I did have the benefit of a full length mirror to check my form in. So all of that is pretty good. It is easy to kind of work this into your schedule and your life for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, and I've heard people say that they've liked it on like business trips for the weekend because especially if you don't like, the Ring is able to be fit in a carry-on, but if you can kind of exercise barefoot. I wouldn't if I was maybe jogging that long in it, but sometimes people have been like, yeah, I just do some sets or I do presses on the Ring. It's a little bit more portable than like a lot of other fitness equipment. And then you can play Zelda. So
mm-hmm.
That's actually the number one complaint in my household, is because it's a physical cartridge. My husband's very mad that he'll like come back to play Zelda and the Ring Fit will be in there. But what a first world problem.
Yeah. I guess you could probably just stash the Ring Fit cartridge in the leg strap.
Oh, that's
keep it all together.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, or maybe in the little Velcro on grippy things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway.
So that's about it for our coverage of the game. But let's do a little bit of our normal outro stuff. Shane, what has been making you happy this week?
I'll tell you what's making me happy this week. And I guess this is kind of a work thing, but which I don't really talk about my job much on the show, but the cool thing is through my work, I have won a trip to a resort in Mexico.
Oh,
I have won
an
all expenses paid few days at a resort at Punta Mita, which is near Puerto Vallarta. So
damn, Shane, that's nice.
Julia, my wife, and I have not taken a vacation together in probably 4 years, 3 or 4 years. So this will be a nice thing to try. That's making me really happy. That's probably going to make me happy until April when it happens.
That sounds lovely. Mine is much less healthy and much less cool. I've just started watching the Gourmet Makes Bon Appetit videos where someone
love those.
Yeah, this woman named Claire who works for Bon Appetit makes like gourmet versions of Starburst or Ferrero Rocher or Pop-Tarts, and Justin and I started watching this as like a very meditative, calm experience. He calls it the best science videos he's ever seen because it's all about experimenting and trying again and trying to keep the faith. And he's like deeply connected to it as a scientist. And I just really like watching her go through like the 7 stages of grief each time her, dough doesn't flake properly. But it's making us both really happy. And we are flying through the videos. Also, the cast of characters in the background is really making me happy. Like, I have opinions about Chris and Brad, which I didn't have last week. So that's what's making me happy.
I really love those videos. They are the best. I think my favorite one was, I really liked the one where she was making Skittles.
Yes. Taffy seems really hard.
Yeah.
I'll also say, like, it's really comforting to watch food videos where I have no interest in ever trying to make this food.
Mm-hmm. I've learned that it is very difficult to temper chocolate.
Yes. Which they make look really easy on the Great British Bake Off. But Claire has taught me it is not an easy thing at all to do.
Mm-hmm. I gotta say, like, all of the videos from Bon Appetit, like that whole series has been really good. I just watched the other day a video from them where they had a bunch of the different chefs in their kitchen show like 11 different ways to make eggs.
Ooh.
And yeah, it was really neat. Like, it made me think about eating more eggs. So anyway, those videos always make me super hungry.
Yeah. Maybe they're not the best pairing with Ring Fit Adventure, but
maybe not.
Yeah, I like went and worked out and I watched a video and I just wanted to eat like 20 Doritos. So anyway, that's it for this week's episode of The Short Game. You can reach us on the web at www.theshortgame.net or on Twitter @_shortgame. I think we got Instagram set up. Is that a true thing?
No, not yet.
We are working on getting Instagram set up, but so stay tuned on that one. But you can reach me at Laura J. Nash on Twitter. Shane, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at 8BitShane.
And of course, you can download us wherever you get your podcasts. Overcast, Apple Podcasts. We love a review. We have not gotten any in a while. Other than that, you can always reach out and let us know what you would like us to play through Twitter, our form on our website, Discord if you're a Patreon. Anything else I've left off, Shane?
I think that about covers it.
Okay. Well, see you next week. Bye.